Policy committee. Oh. Apologies to anybody online. If you haven't heard the proceedings thus far, I would ask that you go back and watch the recording rather than us go back through it all again. We've just introduced ourselves and I'm in the middle of mine. So Councillor Lyndall-Ludlow, I'm fourth term councillor, have held my Making Good Decisions qualification for 9 years, and 7 of those as with the chair's endorsement. So welcome once again. Just to reiterate that this is a resumption of the previous of the full hearing, and our focus today is the further consultation for the speed uplift areas. At the conclusion of hearing the submitters, we will have a break and then deliberate on that matter first, and then we will go, my intention is to go back through previous, well, they're not decisions because we haven't closed the hearing, so previous discussions, and check them for workability and practicalities and accuracy. And that is when any other matters that we may choose to revisit or clarify, that is when we will bring those up. We cannot accept any information or material outside of the speed uplift consultation scope, because that is the only thing that we have allowed anybody in the community to have further say on. So that is my intention today. With that, also really like to thank the many submitters for this part of the process. 66 submissions on the speed uplift areas. So thank you very much for being so interested and for your contribution to the process. It's really important to us that the community is involved. And clearly it's something that means a lot to many of you. So we are doing our best to find the best solution for everybody. With that, I have to do a little bit of boring stuff like health and safety. It's not boring, it's really important. That's why we're here. But internally, exits are marked with green running men. If there's an issue at all today, please head to the nearest exit. Men's bathroom is straight out the doors to your right, and ladies out the doors and to your left. Anything else in health and safety? Let's forget. Right. With that, we will box on to the staff report. Thank you. Unless I've forgotten something.
Yes, the number of submitters is great, and it's a really great outcome for this process. You may recall from the original hearing, that for a number of the requests for new speed uplift areas, there wasn't enough information for us to assess the appropriateness of those requests. But the further consultation process has provided an opportunity for submitters to do that, and in some cases they have. And saying that there are still a number of submissions, particularly requesting extensive speed uplifts or speed uplifts permanently everywhere, that there isn't any information provided to us. So of course we have acknowledged the high level of support for those, but we haven't been able to recommend to the panel to accept those on the basis of support alone. What we have tried to do though is try to strike a balance, particularly because the bylaw sits under both the Maritime Transport Act and the Local Government Act. Throughout the recommendations, you'll see that we've given considerations to the views and preferences expressed by the submitters. But for some of those more significant requests, particularly extensive permanent speed uplifts, we still need to be satisfied that that statutory test under the Maritime Transport Act is also met. But we as submitters did provide relevant information, and where we've considered those requests to be appropriate and supported by evidence, we have recommended these for inclusion into the bylaw. We also, where we could, took the opportunity to try and simplify some of the provisions just for consistency and hopefully make it a bit easier for users to understand. You'll see reference in the report to Maritime Rule 91.20. This was discussed quite a bit last time, so I won't go into it too much, but just acknowledging for the panel and for our submitters that there is that pathway under the Maritime Rule to apply to council for a speed uplift. When we assess these, we did consider there is value in containing all of these types of provisions in the bylaw itself. It just allows requests to be considered all together and at once, through obviously quite a robust consultation and hearing process, where individual submissions under the Maritime Rule, there is some consultation, it's a bit more limited, as well as the ability to review. And lastly, I just want to draw attention to the last section of the report covering the discussion between staff, JBNZ and Fish and Game. I just want to reiterate that those discussions shouldn't be interpreted as the position of those organisations, including of council. They reflected the views of the representatives on that day in the context of those discussions. It was intended as an opportunity to enhance understanding and provide an opportunity to maybe identify some areas of common ground. So we have assessed the formal submissions lodged by those organisations, not the discussion that was had. That's really the main points that I wanted to cover, unless Lyndon and Conrad have anything. I think you'll probably hear a bit more from them today, just with the nature of what we're talking about. But otherwise, I'm happy to move along.
Thank you. Either of you want to say anything at this point? Questions?
It's all written out quite clearly there, especially thanks for highlighting the discussion with the key stakeholders. So the fact that is not determinant of.
Thank you. Councillor Rodway, anything?
No, except I just want to clarify whether or not the staff recommendations in Appendix B, we're going to be discussing them during deliberations, I understand. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. There are a few questions to ask about that, but that would be the appropriate time to do it then, I imagine.
Yes, I think so.
All right. Thank you.
Jess, can you just the Maritime Rule 91.2?
Yep.
Could you just explain that for everybody a wee bit more, please?
Yeah. So any person that wishes to have a speed uplift, if it's not currently in a bylaw, can apply to the council for that. It does have some consultation requirements. It's more to affected people. It's not wider than that. The
That's not the same as a special event.
oh no no
Uplift,
no
though, as such.
no sorry no
Yeah.
so that the maritime law would provide the speed uplift that's just all the time. If it is notified, and it does go through the Gazette process, so the review, it's not the same as a bylaw, where it will come up 5 or 10 years for people to have their say on it. It's limited compared to what we're doing now. Yeah.
But there is still a mechanism if submitters were particularly passionate or particularly concerned about one.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Right, thank you. No more questions from us then? Start at this point?
No, just further on that then. So currently the Jet Boat Association applies for upliftings for a group or a family day. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
No, so there are provisions in the current bylaw and in the draft that allow groups to apply for speed uplifts on a temporary basis for events like that. That what we're talking about now is a completely different process outside of the bylaw that submitters or anyone can apply on their own without this process. But Lyndon and Conrad can talk to that.
Yes, so if I might, 14, section 14 of the proposed bylaw is the special events one.
Yep.
So what would be an example of one of those?
Special event, Cool Boat Club annually have their marathon on Lake Tiana. That's a good example.
Okay. But not the river upliftings by the Jet Boat Club, that's a separate.
No, that's separate. That's a temporary speed uplift that Jess was talking about.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. So, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, if we've got submitters present, we might box on. Mr. Owen, we're a wee bit early, but if you're comfortable to come forward, that'd be great. Just need to remind you, have a seat, and all submitters that we need to be able to see your face on the on the laptop, as much as we all love it, and that you have 5 minutes to speak, and that would allow 5 minutes for questions. You can, of course, use your full 10 minutes if you wish, but it means we can't ask you any questions. And please remember that we have read your submission probably more than once. So if you could highlight the important points, or there's no need for you to read right through it. With that, the time is yours, and I think somebody got a time, because I'll always forget to turn it on. Deborah, have you got we're a little flexible with time, but to make it fair, we need to apply the same time to everybody. You all right, Deborah? Great, thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the panel today. Brief introduction and a bit of a disclosure. I'm Chris Owen, previously a councillor on Southland Fish and Game, current Fish and Game licence holder, previously committee member of Southland Jet Boat Association, current member of Southland Jet Boat NZ, boat contractor for the last 24 years, and in disclosure, Environment Southland is one of my clients. So just wanted to make those things clear.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Firstly, I'd like to sincerely thank the Environment Southland staff, in particular the Harbour Master team and planning. Appreciate the work undertaken, and I applaud the team for having held discussions with key stakeholders, Jet Boat New Zealand and Fish and Game, an opportunity to consider both parties, and I'm sure it has helped in the proposed recommendations and understanding. I also appreciate the work done in simplifying Appendix B. It's a monumental task, and it now reads clearly and much easier to understand. Recommendations show staff have listened to the submitters and considered the evidence and data presented. I take my hat off to everyone that's been involved in the process, including all the submitters. Overall position is I fully support the staff recommendations in Appendix B. Firstly, seasonal uplifts, 1st of June, 30 September on rivers Mauroa, Karima, Matara, Waikaia, Reti Rivers, Mount Nicholas Road to Mosburn Bridge. I fully support the 1st of June to 30th September new dates. Also support the additional rivers included. Fish and Game Zone Hunter Survey data shows that 89% of duck hunters are out over opening weekend. That's the first weekend in May. And only 25 to 30% of hunters are active during any fortnight period after that. To drill down on those 25 to 30% even further, you also got to remember it's divided between farm ponds, paddock shooting, and other areas that's not all done on rivers and lakes. So that 25 to 30% gets even smaller because a lot of it's on private land. That data is available, but I haven't submitted it. Conclusion is staff recommendations are evidence-based, and these dates allow for a simple sharing of the resource in a well-documented low activity period, no conflicts or safety issues. The permanent uplifting Areti River, Mosburn Bridge to Duns Road, I fully support the staff recommendations. Reason that simplifies the previous complicational seasonal rules. 65 submitters have requested greater unrestricted river access. Safety data shows no conflict between river users on the existing unrestricted sections in the Areti area. Extending the Areti River uplifting from Mosburn to Duns Road is a practical step. Furthermore, the Mosburn to Lumsden section, there is limited to no foot access, so you're not finding other people in that section of river. It makes it an ideal location for a permanent uplifting. State Highway 99, Riverton to Wallacedown Bridge to Duns Road. This is a wide section of river. It's been used by boaties illegally for years. Data shows no safety record of conflict with other users. Recommendation simply tidies up gaps in the bylaw, reflects what's already occurring safely. I fully support the permanent uplifting of the Areti River from Mosburn to Duns Road Bridge. Just quickly touch on the YL permanent uplifting Home Creek to YL Weir. I fully support the recommendations from staff. From my personal experience, I work in this section of river on a monthly basis. There is no foot access or public access to that section of river. Maps applied here from Southern Fish and Game showing no anglers' accesses to that section of river. So what happens there is the only access to that section of river is by boat. And what I've seen when I've been working in there monthly is people fish from boats. So that is a boated area. Please note that to return to the boat ramp, you must travel upstream, and travelling upstream virtually requires you to travel at 5 knots, above 5 knots. So boaties do this as a matter of necessity. This recommendation simply recognises the practical reality of that area. I fully support the permanent uplifting from Home Creek to the Weir. Look, in closing, my summary is submitters have brought valuable evidence and data. That evidence has enabled the staff to prepare balanced, safe and practical recommendations. Fish and Game have lobbied over the years that there could be safety conflicts between river users. However, no evidence has been produced by Fish and Game that demonstrates those concerns. Where is their data? They have just used fear as their tool. However, this year, safety data has been presented by submitters. It demonstrates there has been no conflicts or safety issues on existing uplifted river sections. Other regions such as Canterbury, which have far less restrictions than Southland, yet safety data also shows no safety conflict between river users. Finally, I wish to support all staff recommendations in Appendix B. Recommendations are practical, they're evidence-based and supported by safety data. There is no conflicting data presented by anyone to support any other decision. I respectfully ask the panel to adopt the staff recommendations in full. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arn. Questions, Councillor Evans?
Just with regards to the Home Creek to Marrow, where
Yes.
I totally hear what you're saying with having to travel above 5 knots.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for your time, and that was very good. Very good presentation. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Ronway.
Thank you. Yes, thinking about the Ariti River, having it open all the time from Mossburn to basically to the Dunfro Bridge or just above there. When the river is low and clear in the summertime, do you think that safety is enhanced or ensured when thinking about other users in the river, such as people that might be swimming? For example, farmers' children might go down to the river to swim. Somewhere on that reach where there's no road access but it's the back of a farm. I think that we are enhancing or ensuring safety by allowing jet boating in those circumstances.
I don't see any issue with that at all, Morris. Like over the years, you know, jet boating all these reaches, you know, there's public access them in all different points, and you can come across people in the back of the farm. But again, what you've got to remember in a river situation and in a jet boat, you could virtually drive around the table you're sitting on and you guys wouldn't even get wet. So you've got to remember they're very adaptable craft, and you don't get surprised by these people. You see them long distances in ahead, and you know the distance of this room is more than amicable to bring the boat to a halt. So no, I don't share your concerns with that. And you know, it's well known when you put your boat in the river that around all the bridge sections you're likely to see swimmers. So you are travelling in a way which you're looking out for these people because they are expected. So I think what you find is you share the road. You learn to work with these things because you do come across them. It's quite normal.
Thank you.
Just from me, Mr. Arn, I just wanted to check the YO restrictions do not apply between sunrise and sunset. That's okay with you?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
And for the Ariti, I've lost my question. No, I think you just answered that actually. No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll leave that, Matt, for you.
Yep, thank you.
It's fine.
Thanks, Mr. Arn. I appreciate your time and positivity. Just need Mr. Cochrane. Ken Cochrane, are you online perhaps, Mr. Cochrane?
There's Simon Owen that's representing.
Oh, is it?
Today.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think-
I didn't read the right column. Mr. Owen of the Simon. Oh, well, we are a wee bit early, so we could wait. Safe. Unless Mr. Duffy, unless you would like to leap into the gap. Just acknowledging that, would anybody be coming online that would want to hear your submission at 10:30?
Not as far as I know.
I feel comfortable with going now.
Yeah, a bit early, no time for coffee.
More, you'll be able to have 2 after.
That's good, yeah.
Thank you. So just to remind you, 5 minutes and 10 in total.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think my phone will ring you this time. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Wayne Duffy's my name. I'm a member of the Depot Association for probably close to 40 years. Done a lot of Depot in those years. Plus involved in river racing and also in control boating for support in river racing and also search and rescue. So, yeah, first I'd like to clarify my original submission. I actually made a mistake of had the Southern District Council as a district plan. It should be navigational bylaw, safety bylaw. So I can read that.
Yeah, thanks.
This is going to be short and sweet because much of what Chris was saying, I acknowledge and support the planners' recommendations for the rivers that have been mentioned. For example, the Reti River, I support that as being a full use uplifting for Mossburn down to Guns Road. The Reti River is probably our most used river in the whole of Southland, because the main reason, in fact, is that it's open all year round from Winton to Dipton. So to a point it gets hammered, really, when you think about it. The river, I'm speaking my experience, the river above Dipton to Mossburn and below Winton is no different. Okay, same bit of water, still braided. I can't see it an issue of navigational safety issue. The only navigational safety issue we do have is railway arms that have been put on there in the 60s for obviously for training the river for flood protection, so to speak. So, and we're very involved in identifying those areas where it could cause potential harm and get them removed. And we have been in consultation with ES on that, you know. But our guys are trained to lock out, with enough experience to lock out where they are, you know. Yeah, fully in support of the Reti River and the same with the Aparima. The rivers, for example, like the River Kaya, they've got a 4 month uplifting from 1st of June to end of September. There's 4 months boating. End of the day, that effectively is the time of year we get the most of our water. We do have special upliftings early in the year for members. Would probably be good if we had a bit longer than that, but anyway, but we fully support that. Getting back to the Reti River, when we've had to have special upliftings to have runs from Dipton to Mossburn, for example, it's a very popular area of the river. And as an organiser, we've had boats turn up to 70 boats, which puts a bit of pressure on things. So what I'm saying is, by having the river open, it lets small amounts of boats going up there and using that over a longer period of time, so to speak. So yeah, and same with the wire. It's obviously when it is low, we get every third Sunday of the month we get a recreational release. So to make enough water to get up there. Like as I just mentioned, you mentioned, Morris, about swimmers. When you speak, that section between Dipton and Winton, there'll be a good amount of swimmers between that Centrebush Bridge, Dipton Bridge, and Winton Bridge, and there's going to be no instance, as far as I can recall, of any issues with water users or with swimmers, kayakers, what have you. End of the day, we are in control of our contract. We basically we give way to everything. Okay. I know you would have seen our jib boat manual here. It's basically a safety manual that basically regulates our members, and pretty well. The objective of jib boating, advocate for our members, recreational jib boat New Zealand, but to encourage safe boating, to foster relationships with other stakeholders. Okay, so that's with fishermen, kayakers, swimmers, what have you. So that's in our best interest. So that's the association, being part of the association. There's some good recommendations there. As I say, short and sweet. That's pretty much what I've got to say. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Duffy. Just a quick question from me. Just wondering if you've got an idea of how many people own jet boats and run them, rather than just parking them in their driveway, that are not members that would be following your club.
Yes, okay. Well, unfortunately, we don't have any control. Well, don't really have any control on any boaters, but within our association, we go to a point. But I think in this day and age, that they've got to be, the ramifications if they're not, if something does happen, to be aware. That
would there be many people who own boats that are not part of your association?
Oh, for sure there is. Yeah, there will be. I'd be lying if there wasn't, and that's throughout the country. That's throughout New Zealand. And for whatever reason, but what we are finding, and we're doing a push, is that for jet boat membership and the reasons and advantages of being members of the Jet Boat Association, apart from getting a magazine 4 times a year, we're now showing people for $100, $150, what it is for the year. It's only half a tank of fuel. It's less than that now.
Yeah.
But it is a massive push on membership to show them to get on board and the reason what we do and why to be a member, what have you. So that's and we've picked up a lot of members doing that. Like there's over 2,500 members throughout New Zealand, and family members. We put it as a family entertainment. It's not like a bunch of races racing up and down the steering wheel. It's totally not that at all. We're out there just to basically explore the country and have a good time. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor Evans?
Questions also. Maybe a thought through reading the submissions where a lot of people are submitting the benefits for users, but as a councillor and also as someone in the community, I know that rivers change a hell of a lot, and they change quickly, they change seasonally, and it would be good to have, or the positives would be that it would be good to have an increased knowledge of any changes of the river, and any Jet Boating New Zealand members that see changes would assist ES and harbour masters, and just the same as I've personally had people riding cycle trails and noticed where rivers are cutting out, and informed us as well. The positives could be there that notifying of any aspect that could be, it could be a flood bank being undermined or whatever. And these are all important to not just users, but to the community, the region, and everything.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, well, we have what we call a freebie manager through both Facebook and through the computer system. So we let all our members know what's going on. There's a flood coming up. We use the ES river gauges to know how much water is in the river. We get a pretty good idea. Like for example, the Reti, we look at Lumsden Cableways gauge. It's below 20 cubics. Well, you know, it's going to be an interesting day. Love that. But it's open to everyone. They see that, and especially as organisers, we want to run, because we as organisers, we normally have two. We have a safety procedure. We have a briefing. We give them, you know, the hazards of the river. Everything pretty well covers itself as a jet boat and what we know is an experience. So yeah, we regulate ourselves, and we keep members informed. And we also, because Facebook's open to everyone, so those members you're talking about who are non-members will still see that. Okay, so if anything, and they see what we do, and I'll be get interested to come along and join. Yeah,
Be good to have that information shared back.
for sure. It's all about learning experience.
Quickly throw to Councillor Ridway in case he's got a question.
Well, I think there are quite a few questions actually.
Well,
Am I allowed to
yes, you can.
go for a bit longer?
Yes, we'll grab a couple of extra minutes.
Thanks very much, Wayne. That's very helpful. A minute ago, you talked about the river flow gauge at Lumsden, and when it was less than 20 cubics, you said something about it being a bit more tricky. Was that right? Did I get that right?
Oh, well, no, what I mean by that is like for learners, so to speak, you know, we can still boat it. We race at 20 cubics. I should actually go less than that. But it's so, you know, it's a good average number to sort of go by, I suppose.
Right.
It gives us, because anything, you know, the river itself, it runs normally about 36 or 40 or whatever it may be. We used to have one gauge here at halfway down, it could be more, and it appeared. So we still rely on the bottom gauge now, you know, even if it takes 12 hours for water to come down. It's just a number. You've got to use a number to base, because we know what the river's going to be like, 20 cubics.
I'm just wondering about whether it's safer above or below 20 cubics. Does it matter?
Oh, definitely safer below, absolutely.
Safer below 20 cubics.
For sure, yeah. And well, and as you understand, the earthing runs into the Reti, just above the Lumsden Bridge.
Yeah.
So you know, we advise members, well, it's still boatable, but it's you know, very more interesting. Yeah.
Thinking about the upper Reti, up near the Mount Nicholas Bridge, for the distance about 20 kilometres below there, where there's no road access or anything, and there are places where there are large boulders in the river there. If a boat was to come to grief there, or the engine stop or something, and there's no road access, there's no cell phone access in there, what is that? Is that a safe place to be?
We won't go there. If the river's not at a safe level, we will not go there. So,
but if it was open, it's proposed to be open during the winter time, so that anybody could go there at any time during those months where it's proposed to be open. Is that a safe thing?
well, it's. I think that they'll find that out for themselves. But it's like anything. You've got to judge. You've got to vote as you see it. But we know, like going up to Three Kings and what have you, you've got to have a reasonable flow up there. You know, still get up there, but could wreck the boat too. You know, so but the majority of the runs we've done up there have been. I've got photos. We had some good days up there. Boats can be no trouble at all, backwards and forwards. You know, but we and the same with Motskin. The majority of all our runs up there have been good safe boating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you know, there again, in the middle of summer, we all know when the Reti was down to 3 or 4 cubics, you can't even go and boat out at Winton. You know, it's just too late. So you've got to use your head over it. You know, it gives us options whether you, unless apart from putting a 1 weekend or 1 day uplifting, and you miss that for whatever reason, either rivers and flood or rivers too low. So then you miss that opportunity where we can make a decision anytime during the year, hey, get clean water if we go boating, or no, hey guys, forget about it. So we're all adults here. Yeah.
Can I ask some more?
Yep.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the Aparima River above the Jacobs Bridge up to the Aparima Hut?
I have not voted that person myself, no, I haven't.
It's quite a small
Okay.
river up there, isn't
Yeah, it's on a good flow, yeah, I believe so. But yeah, as you know, I can't speak to that because I haven't gone past the Jacobs Bridge.
it? What about the Mararoa River downstream of the Whitestone Confluence down to the Wheel Road Bridge? There's an area about 4 or 5 kilometres above the Wheel Road Bridge where the river's very windy. There's quite a lot of large boulders in the river.
You're talking about Mararoa?
Yeah.
Is this a trick question?
Sorry, is it a trick question?
Absolutely.
No, sorry, it's the Mararoa. The Mararoa from the Wheel Road Bridge for about 5 kilometres upstream
Yeah.
is very narrow and winding, and there's some large boulders in the river. Do you think that's a safe place for anybody to be able to go, say, by themselves? There's no
Well, I haven't
road
voted.
access there or anything. There's no.
I haven't voted that section, so I can't comment, but if I can compare, there's a lot of areas we've voted, and they'll give you examples of the Dart River or the Tuki River. You know, you get into the areas where obviously the river gets less. You actually make a decision. Well, we're not going to go any further. You know, it's unvotable, or you know, without wrecking your boat. So you've got to take that into consideration, your own personal safety and what have you. And if it's a river run, well, we'll just have a cut off. That's it. No, we're not going any further. You know, if someone's pre-voted or what have you, and river racing, we definitely, every river is pre-voted. It has to be. Yeah. But,
Okay, so you haven't been to those 2 places, but say people can rely on their own judgment to ensure whether it's safe or not.
well, when we open the Mararoa, we'll tell you.
Don't prove it badly. Thank you. Right, thanks, Mr. Duffy. We appreciate you jumping in ahead of schedule and your submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Simon Owen, I now see you are here. Sorry for the slight timing variation. We jumped in.
Apologies.
No worries.
My timing's wrong.
We're all but flexible this morning.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks. You've got 5 minutes and then 5 minutes for questions. Thanks.
So the submission's from Ken Cochran. Apologies, but I cannot be in attendance as Simon is delivering this for you. I'm currently in the sky somewhere north of Auckland. It's important for me to have the opportunity to submit my thoughts and opinions on how we work through the various needs and wants of all stakeholders that use our rivers in Southland. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the staff at Environment Southland again for all of their work on the navigational and safety bylaw review. I will keep the submission narrow and isolated to my request to have a permanent uplifting on the Aree River from Dipton to Mosburn. My submission needs little explanation, as in my earlier submission, I talked about removing the notion that jet boaters are in conflict with other river users and that there are dangers to other user groups. This myth has been extinguished by the accident data provided by accompanying my submission. When we conclude that there is little or no risk to other river users, then we can turn our attention to satisfying the need for a permanent uplifting as above. My evidence submitted confirms that there are 5 speed upliftings per year between Dipton and Mosburn, or part thereof. That is the historical use in the middle of the coldest months of the year, and these upliftings contract anywhere between 10 and 60 boats per day, which demonstrates how valued the resource is to jet boaters on this section of the Arete. So on one side of the ledger, being in favour, we have no safety issues, existing use on a limited basis with very high uptake, and a request for further opportunity. This is also supported by 65 other submitters. Now let's take a look at the other side of the ledger, being in opposition. In excess of 65 submissions were received. Of these, there was only 1 opposition to the uplifting, and that was Fish and Game. Their submission was soft compared to their early submissions, in round one. Fishing Game's position changed after a private meeting of staff and stakeholders. Their second submission didn't reference any concerns around safety of other river users. Their opposition was contained to environmental concerns, not safety. And this submission has been rejected by your planning department, which I believe is the correct decision. The silence of fishermen, swimmers and kayakers in round two of the process could be deemed to support the uplifting request. There are no submitters in opposition other than Fishing Game. I have taken the time to review the submissions and recommendations put forward by the planning team for the navigational safety bylaw. I have reached a conclusion that they have followed the due process and that they are now they have now listened to the stakeholders and put forward very good, equitable solutions through their recommendations. The next challenge is for the review panel to support their staff and adopt the recommendations that are currently on the table. While it is within the scope of the review panel not to accept and support their staff's recommendations, it would be negligent to the process and without good reason to choose a different result. After many months and two separate submission processes, it is my firm belief that we now have a good balance of advice to consider and have largely got this right. So let's do it and move forward. Any questions on my thought processes, ask Simon, as he'll know the answers. Thank you very much for your time. Kim Cochran.
Thanks, Simon. No pressure. Thank you. Question, Councillor Robbo?
So just a clarification, thank you, Simon. I think you said that Ken was asking for or supporting the submission, the approval from Dipton to Mossburn. Is he also supporting the uplifting from further downstream below Winton down to the sea, do you know?
Well, it's not written in his submission, but I believe he would.
Right,
Yes.
okay. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
No, just to clarify that, in his original submission, or his submission, he's got opposed to that Aridi River section, but he's actually changing that to support what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't have exact clarification on that point.
I think that's how you stated it,
that's my
and I'm
understanding.
sure it is, and it relates back to what you said, or what Ian said, with regard to accident data. So thank you. No, that's good.
Yeah, no, I don't have any further questions, but thank you for stepping in for Mr. Cochran and for once again a positive response to the discussions already. So thanks very much for your time.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Well, that brings us to the morning tea break. It's almost, we're about 10 minutes early, but we've heard the three submitters from the full morning tea, so we might take a quick break and recommence at 10 to 11.
If you want to do one more, we have got Katie McNabb online already. If you did have, I don't know if Andrew Cotton's
I could do
here.
with just a wee
Katie McNabb there.
break. Patty, would you mind waiting till 10 to 11? That would be, or even 20 to 11. We could have our 20 minutes.
Down to 10 minutes.
Oh, she's not due till 10.
Yeah, she's not due till 10:15. Patty, can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I can. Good morning, panel. Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm perfectly fine. It's up to my colleague, Mr. Colley, that he's available to be there at any time when I'm speaking. Because he'll...
Yeah, I think we might stick with 10:50, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're just going to take a quick break and we'll be back at 10:50. If we could be back at 1:45.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, folks. There'll be
Yeah, I go back there.
Oh. Did you
I
bring,
picked-
did you bring any?
I've got enough in my freezer.
Yeah, well, I have eaten all mine.
Well, I'll pick that as soon as through the door.
Yeah. Right, shall we rock over there, Deborah?
Right.
2 minutes. Katie, just checking that you folk are right at that end before we resume.
Yes, I'm fine.
Right. So folks, welcome back to the resumption of the Navigation Safety Bylaw further consultation hearing. Our next submitter is Jet Boating New Zealand, represented by Katie McNabb and Andrew Colley. Welcome, folks. Just a reminder that we've got a few minutes in total, 5 and 5 if we can, but we can be a little bit flexible this morning. So welcome.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff.
Good morning, panel. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Katie McNabb. I have been around jet boating for a number of years. Personally, I've owned my own boat and I've been jet boating for 33 years. I'm also a sailor and a coastal skipper, just to give you some idea of my background. So my intention today is to talk about the broader application of the maritime rules as they come down towards rivers, and to assure the panel that there is a very robust framework of national and international rules that cover our the behaviour of maritime traffic, both around the coast and on the water. So just a few things I'd like to emphasise on our submission. If you look at page 2, the second paragraph, and this was mentioned by Mr. Owen earlier, water jet propelled craft are highly manoeuvrable, able to stop within their own length, and they have a reverse thrust that no other propulsion has. They require a different skill set to other boats, particularly reading a river. So we have a craft that is widely used now by Coast Guard and everything else because of their safety and their manoeuvrability. So carrying on down that page, we have the navigation rules, which are international. That's passing port to port, being able to overtake from any side, travelling at safe speed, keeping a proper lookout, and how to behave in narrow channels. Wherever you take a boat in the world, regardless of whether it's up a river, round a coast, or wherever, those are the rules. So navigation safety bylaws, so it's not navigation and safety, it's navigation safety bylaws, can only be made vessels on the water and must not be inconsistent with the Maritime Transport Act 1994, Rules Part 1991, and only matters relating to Part 91 can be considered navigation safety bylaws. So that's the model bylaw that sits in the Maritime Transport Act that was developed in 2001 and enacted in 2003 to give the regional authorities such as yourself a framework within which to work. All right, it's all clear so far? Okay, so we've got river safety rules, which are very clear in Rules 91, that you have to stay on the starboard side of the channel, the right-hand side, and if you're going upstream, give way to vessel coming downstream and so on. You might be interested to know that if you were to go boating up the Thames in England, you would read exactly that same section of rules around river safety. So they come from the British Admiralty, not just New Zealand. So yeah, so it's important to recognise that the bylaw is not the only source of legal obligation for skippers on the watercraft to comply with. It's much bigger and it's very robust. So, I mean, it's really important that just as in coastal boating, whether you're inland or coastal, you're boating to the conditions. If in doubt, don't go out is always the golden rule. So you don't go boating a river if the conditions are dodgy. That's called skipper responsibility. And as a skipper of a boat, you're utterly responsible for the vessel and those within it. So if the river's not in great nick, you don't boat it, simply as such. And we are encouraged to take the appropriate communications, whether we're way inland, we'd carry an EPIRB or a PLB or radio in a coastal situation, whatever. That's all part of that skipper responsibility. So we don't just sort of go ploughing out on the rivers, just the way we don't drive on the roads without being aware of the rules. So just turning over to page 6 out of the 11 of the submission, the relevant district plans in Environment Southland have no restriction on motorised boatings in the rivers under submission. So that's a whole nother thing that I'd like the panel and the hearing panel to consider. So far, now the key submissions, and I'm referring to page 5 of 11, a bylaw must be effective at achieving its statutory purpose and not be used to achieve a collateral purpose beyond the statutory purpose and that, for example, affects. Okay, it's just maritime traffic we're looking at here, the rules of the road. So is the bylaw that you're proposing the most appropriate way of addressing perceived problems, and whether the proposed bylaw is the most appropriate form of bylaw? We can't consider these regional bylaws in isolation. We've got bylaws in Southland and Otago. Next year we've got Queenstown Lakes. It's really important that when you're doing bylaws that you think nationally, not just locally, because people travel all around the countryside. It would be akin to having, green and white striped giveaway signs in Auckland and pink and white spotted ones in Southland. And that's the danger that while of course there's differences in rivers and so on and so forth, that we think nationally when we talk about bylaws. All right. So, and how the bylaw must only be for the purpose of ensuring maritime safety. And we know now that all this perception around fishermen being injured or swimmers being hit, I can assure you that we did that OIA request and filed it with you. That just doesn't happen. It's perception. And we didn't have rules on the rivers until 1973, which you'll see in the supplementary submission. So we had 20 years of jet boating, including commercial jet boating, prior to that happening. And somehow we all managed. So they just treated as channels. All right. So I'll just move over. Any questions on that initial submission before I move to the supplementary or the additional material?
Just a quick one from me.
Yeah.
Thank you for your really detailed and clear explanation of the responsibilities. Is it your general view that what we have proposed in front of us meets all those requirements?
I am not as familiar with Southland rivers as my colleague, Mr. Collier, so I would like him to address that particular phrase. But
as far as the maritime laws and the transport act, etc., they are compliant as far as you're concerned? Yes,
they meet the requirements, but that has to be signed off by the Director of Maritime New Zealand ultimately. And what I've noticed happening in the last 20 years since I've been engaging in these processes is that instead of using Rule 91 as the model bylaw, which was what the intention was when it was drafted and enacted, that people have rewritten in their own language, and that's not always helpful. So as long as your language and you haven't put anything in there. For instance, at the moment, we've got 7 different life jacket rules. The only correct rule at the moment, the only rule that has any teeth, is the one that says that we have to carry life jackets. So we've got 7 different rules around the country. So those are the sort of things that have happened over this last 25 years, or 23 years in fact, that have caused issues for communication. It's about consistency and complexity. If you have complex rules, you will not have good compliance. And that is in fact what's happened. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So let's just go on. I've given you a legislative history of the upliftings in the additional material for hearing because I thought it would assist the panel to understand how we got where we are today. And it's really just an accident of history. In that when the Admiralty spotted the Earnslaw on Lake Wakatip, they realised they had a ship of over 500 tonnes, which introduces a whole nother layer of legislation. So they decided to apply the coastal rules, which had been in place since 1953, the 5 knot rules, to every lake, river and stream. So as a slam dunk, we got captured in that. I mean, I think it does mean that what came with that was also the international collision rules, which is our steering rules or how we behave on the river. But it wasn't an intention to regulate jet boats as such, because we had paddle steamers on the Wanganui. We had all sorts of different craft all over the rivers of New Zealand, Waikato particularly. So it wasn't just about narrow rivers and jet boats. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mr. Colley, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, so I'll just firstly note, obviously I'm here representing obviously JVNZ, but as national president, and I'm also a fishing game license holder and a game bird license holder. Just quickly, I think there's been several discussions around safety and I guess the skipper responsibility, and I guess again the IO request, which is in our submission, page 38 and 39 of the entire submission document. One recorded accident between a fisherman and a swimmer since 2009. So I guess that was I'd be satisfied myself that that current framework is effective. Jet New Zealand supports the recommendations of staff. Acknowledges obviously there's some vast changes there from previous, which I think will result in a more appropriate and effective framework. I will draw a note though to the APREMA and evidence submitted by Mr. Owen, where it does reference heavily whitebaiting in that lower section. I just question how, given that is only for 2 months a year, I just question how appropriate that is to the bylaw we're talking about today. And that is me.
Okay, we will note that.
Need to ask.
Yep, certainly.
So Andrew, could you clarify that a bit more, the lower APREMA in relation to whitebaiting?
Mr. Owen had a submission, the section from that lower section to the river bridge.
Thornbury to
Yes. It was a proposal that he was. I know he didn't speak on that. There was a note there that restricted access, and what I don't believe whitebaiting as such is part of this. And it was noted in the staff comments that there wasn't enough evidence to proceed with any further uplifting there. And I just question if that was to be a condition of navigation safety, then there's essentially 10 months a year where it wouldn't be a consideration.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Also note it does overlap already with the recommendation. Although not.
No, I don't think so.
Students.
Thank you. Jet boat numbers have been fairly static since the 2000s. Good God. No, I don't know. It's a good statement, but is that measured through the Jet Boat New Zealand members or jet boat users as a whole? That's the big thing. I know that I personally feel there's an increase, being part of that as well myself. So Yeah, that was just the only question, and we could have a wee bit more detail on that.
I mean, look, thanks, Paul. Look, we can only speak for our membership numbers, which currently are just north of 2,600, and it's worth noting that, that number is only just replenishing itself to the level it was, I guess, when there was racing was associated with association, whereas we are a recreational body. Now those are, they are quite separate. There is no, to our knowledge, there is no there we can estimate, but there is no official numbers we can work with on that.
Okay, no, thank you. That's good.
Thank you. I've got no questions. So thank you both for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks very much.
Thank you to the panel for your time. And yeah, I'm always available. I'll stay online until the end of the session if you wish to ask further questions.
Thanks very much, Katie. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. McMaster.
My name is Gareth McMaster, and I've worn many hats on JBNZ, Jet Boat New Zealand. Also, I do a bit of work on the jet boat for SARS. I'm here in my own capacity, but under jet boating. Available to ask any questions relating to Jet Boat New Zealand as well. First, I'd like to thank the Environment Southland and congratulate them on their recommendations. I do support them. We've come a long way. Over and above that, there are a few other concerns that I'll address that were all in my submission. I live in Winton, only 2 minutes from the Reedy River. For the last 45 years, I've had the pleasure of using it as my playground. Jet boating, fishing, duck hunting, whitebaiting, and just what I will call being out at the river. I'll use the Reedy River as an example to my submission, but it sort of follows on for the Matea, the Aparima, and the Waiau. In duck hunting season, there will be at least a duck hunting opportunity in every backwater from Winton to Dipton, possibly 500 metres apart all the way, and often see trucks with dog boxes on the back parked in all the anglers' accesses throughout the season. On the same stretch of river and fishing season, there's also some excellent trout fishing opportunities. And most weekends I'm out there, you'll see fishermen and get a good chance to talk to them. This stretch of water is a very popular piece of water for recreation activities. As far as jet boating goes, it will be the most congested river section in the way of jet boats in all of Southland. And I would go as far as to say is just about New Zealand. This is based on the large number of jet boats in Southland, and they only have a very small 25 kilometres of river in Southland that's open all year round. I question that fishing or hunting on any river in Southland has a navigational safety issue. I see in the submission notes under 24, submitters provided excellent and instant information, which I would like to see, is ensure there would be no evidence in there that would show any harm done to any other recreational person or group on the river in Southland. I can back this up as I would fall into the top 1 or 2% of jet boaters that boat this stretch of river the most, and I've never seen any incident or conflict in the 45 years that I've been on the river. This is an important fact, and I would like anybody to challenge me on that. Boundaries and periods. What is the difference between the boundary between Winton and above Dipton, the heavily boated stretch between? Is there a conflict I don't know about? Because I also spend a lot of time on these parts of the river and see no issues why we are not allowed to boat it. I'll also mention the area from the falls down to the sea on the Matea as another example, recommending it be opened for only 4 months. Through duck hunting season, it would allow more opportunity and definitely for fishing, as well as whitebaiting, if it was open for 12 months of the year. the number of landowners that don't allow access to public, but do so for selected fishermen or hunters, or hold it for themselves. Where's the fairness in that? Well, if it were votable, it will create more opportunity. Access is another issue which I mentioned earlier. Areas like the Mateo River above Adelasa and Cattle Flat, where privileged anglers are allowed to access, where we have to walk for at least an hour past the end of the road to find a couple of vehicles up there fishing. It is a shared resource and should be treated that way. Boating the river would solve this. Another example, the Reedy River between Lumsden and Mosburn, where there is no access at all. In closing, there may be needs for some restrictions between recreational groups, whether it be boundaries or periods. But first, we need to find out what the conflict is, which I think you will struggle under navigational safety. It is not the tool to be using it for. The Ahariti above Mosburn may be one of these areas, but again, not under navigational safety. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the rivers throughout Southland.
Thank you, Mr. McMaster. Question, Councillor Evans?
No, thank you very much for the submissions, wealth of knowledge. Very much appreciated.
Rob White.
Oh, yes, thank you, Garth. The issue relating to duck hunting from drifting boats, particularly in rivers like Tara and the Aparima. I don't know how much occurs in the Aparima and the Ariti, but if you had a jet boat travelling either upstream or downstream and you approach a hunter or a couple of hunters in a small boat drifting down the river hunting ducks, would there be a potential for a risk there?
I don't think so, because jet boating, one thing about being in a jet boat, you've got to be on your game the whole time.
Mm.
And on a riverbed, the water level is flat, and you can see for miles up a river sometimes. But like your visibility of seeing someone coming down around a corner, it wouldn't be an issue. And I don't think it would disturb the duck shooting too much, because I know when we boat up a river and we put ducks out of the willows, and you'll go up that river and spend 10 minutes up there and then come back down again, and all those ducks are back in those areas again.
You know, I'm not thinking about disturbing ducks. I'm just thinking about safety of a fast-moving boat compared to a slow-moving boat that probably hasn't got much ability to get out of the way if they needed to.
Right.
But no, you've answered that question. I asked this question before of Wayne. How familiar are you of the Arita River downstream of the Mount Nicholas Bridge, where it's small and narrow and where it's very remote, and imagine if it's proposed to be open in the winter time up there. Imagine a jet boater going up there, or a couple, and not knowing the other is there, going in opposite directions with a small river, large boulders. Do you think that is a safe thing to allow to happen?
Well, look, I'm very familiar with that part of the river, and as I am with all the tops of the rivers, but like in those areas, you would see another boat coming down for 300 or 400 meters in front of you, and you would have time to pull over. Like communications in those areas, I've just gone onto the Spark cell phone program now. I was in at Doubtful Sound at Blanket Bay on the weekend, and I actually phoned my wife. I'm getting an inch of rain every hour, and that's as simple as it is now. We all carry EPIRBs and everything. There's a lot of you talked about flows and everything early on. Look, I wouldn't personally myself take my big 5 meter boat right up into the headwaters, but like with the rubber jet boats and small mini boats and all those other boats now, they're more than capable of getting up there.
So this rule would allow anybody in any size boat to go there.
Yep.
What about the Waikaia River? How familiar are you with that?
Very familiar with it.
Would you agree that it's a lot more windy and narrow than other rivers?
Yeah, it isn't parts of it. It has got straight areas in it though, just the same. But I don't think any of the corners are actually blind enough that you can't see what's around the corner. And like if there's other people in those areas, like they would hear a jet boat coming up. You got to remember, if a boat is drifting down the river, he's got no motor, he's got no power, so you would hear a jet boat for ages coming up those rivers.
I'm thinking more about two jet boats going in opposite directions, which you wouldn't hear the other boat. And if it was a narrow winding river, would that be safe compared to, say, a river like the Arete or a Canterbury River?
There's no compelling evidence to say that's ever happened. Like in my lifetime of jet boating, like like you talk about the Reedy River, which it's got tight bends, it's got them in narrow channels, and it's extremely heavily boated. Like there's not a day that you wouldn't go over the Winton Bridge where you don't see a boat trailer or half a dozen boat trailers on that beach. And those groups aren't boating with the other people. There's different groups boating in all the time. And there's no evidence of any crashes or anything.
I'm just thinking about the smaller rivers like the Upper Arete or the Upper Aparima.
Right. Well, the Upper Arete has got, there's no hidden corners in the Upper Arete at the top of it. Aparima, there's no areas on there. It's got a wide open riverbed. Actually, the riverbed seems to be building more in the middle and it's lifting the river. So visibility is a lot. Waikawa could be a little bit different because it's got heavily willow corners, but there's still room for manoeuvre.
I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Something from me. Appreciate that history has been pretty good, but the bylaw is we're trying to kind of future-proof the safety of our communities, and taking into account that the climate is changing, so we're predicting higher and more intense rain, at odd times maybe, and also you mentioned that there's a lot of people buying boats and owning boats now that perhaps haven't before, and that may continue. Do you think that the proposed bylaw changes accommodate the future boating use and river safety, navigational safety? Is there anything that you are aware of that might complicate things in the future?
So you're referring to the recommendations at the moment? That's a pretty broad question.
It is.
Look, no, I don't. Well, put it this way, we can really only go on the evidence that we've got previous to this. I can't see climate change, extra river flows, higher river levels are going to make things any worse. In fact, I would think it would improve things more.
Okay, so you referred to that particular stretch of the Arete being probably the busiest part of the country, actually.
Yep.
And so the proposed recommendations, do you think they're sufficient to manage that, if that continues to grow, that usage continues to grow? Are they sufficient, do you think?
Well, I feel if the whole river was open all year round, that would reduce the congestion on that part of the river. And that will go for all the rivers in Southland.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else, chaps?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McMaster. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that takes us to Mr. Barker, please. Welcome, Mr. Barker. You've got 10 minutes, 5 and 5, if that's best for you.
Thank you very much. You said earlier you read the previous submissions on that, so I was going to supply photos and maps that I've already submitted, but I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, no, we've been through them.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Madam Chair and councillors. Thank you to the hearing panel and staff for the opportunity to present submission again today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the work of Environment Southland staff and the planning team throughout the process, and I support the recommendations and respectfully ask the hearing panel to adopt them. I've been jet boating on Southland's rivers for more than 10 years and have been a member of Jet Boating New Zealand throughout that time. I served on the Southland Branch Committee, including branch chairman, and I currently chair the Southland Rivers Committee. I'm also a keen hunter and fisherman, fish and game member, regularly use my jet boat to access these recreational activities. To be clear, I'm representing today in support of my own personal submission, although I remain as chair of the JBNZ Southland Rivers Committee. I'm not speaking on behalf of JBNZ today. I'd like to reinforce several key points from my previous submissions. So what does a 5 knot restriction mean for recreational powered vessels? For powered vessels, including propeller-driven boats, jet boats, personal watercraft and other motorised craft, a 5 knot speed restriction effectively prevents safe operation on a river. In practical terms, it completely removes access for recreational powered vessels. In my view, Southland's rivers should remain accessible for recreational boating, hunting and fishing. I do not believe there are navigation safety reasons that justify preventing responsible recreational users from accessing these waterways. It's also important to remember that a speed uplift is not intended to allow unrestricted speed or racing. Its purpose is simply to enable powered vessels to safely navigate and access our waterways. So the characteristics of the areas currently subject to speed restrictions. Southland is home to some spectacular river environments. These are places that recreational boaters, along with their families and friends, should be able to access and enjoy. Many sections of our rivers are difficult or impossible to reach on foot. The map I previously submitted shows the limited public access to the Arete River between Lumsden and Mosburn. In fact, this section of river has one of the fewest angler access points of any river reach in Southland. I'd also provided in my previous submissions photographs of several river sections that are currently restricted to 5 knots. These images show wide river channels, excellent visibility and deeper pools that allow vessels to navigate safely even when multiple river users are present. Where is the navigation safety risk? Several submitters, including myself, have provided Maritime New Zealand incident reports as part of this process. If the concern is that powered vessels create a navigation safety risk for other users, the available evidence does not support that conclusion. The absence of reported incidents demonstrates that historically interactions between powered vessels and other river users have not resulted in the safety issues that are being suggested. This is particularly significant because the Arete River between Winton and Dipton has had a year-round speed uplift since 1981. During that time, there have been no reported incidents involving powered vessels and other river users, despite the river being widely used for swimming, fishing, duck hunting and recreational boating, as Garth and Wayne have both alluded to earlier as well. The Waia River also operates under a year-round speed uplift, and again, there are no reported incidents involving boats and other river users. In my opinion, this demonstrates the different recreational users are capable of safely sharing these waterways. So my position, our rivers are a public resource that should be available for everyone to enjoy responsibly. I continue to believe there are no navigation safety reasons for maintaining speed restrictions that effectively prevent recreational boat access to many of Southland's waterways. The historical evidence shows that recreational boating, fishing, swimming, hunting, and other river activities have coexisted safely for many years without significant navigation safety issues. I also do not believe that seasonal speed uplifts are genuinely based on navigation safety considerations, particularly when permitted periods largely avoid peak fishing season. Restricting recreational boating to the coldest and wettest months of the year is neither fair nor reasonable for those who use these rivers responsibly. For these reasons, though, I support the recommendations of Environment Southland staff and the planning team, and I respectfully urge the hearing panel to adopt these recommendations. Thank you for your time. Welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you, Councillor Rockway.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Just really, I suppose, continuing on my theme of allowing boat speed uplifting in smaller, narrower rivers. like the Upper Aparima and the Upper Ariti. I know that's only in the winter time. And that relies on people, some of the other submitters have said, relies on people who drive boats to act responsibly, and you just said this. We have to think about whether or not we are ensuring safety when these things occur. Would you say that all boaties behave responsibly?
I think we talk about any waterways at all.
Just
would I-
think about behaviour.
As a boatie, would I take my boat out to sea if it was blowing 20 knots? No, I wouldn't. I'd read the conditions. Likewise, would I take a seaboat up a river? No, I wouldn't. Would you take a road bicycle down a downhill mountain bike trek? You wouldn't, but you wouldn't say it's unsafe for any bike to go down there. So I'm not just talking about river access for large jet boats. This could be rubber boats, any other motorised vessels that are fully capable of navigating these waterways in whatever conditions.
Yeah.
You really need to read the conditions for your own vessel, I suppose, and decide whether it's appropriate. Wouldn't drive my convertible through Queenstown in the middle of winter when it was snowing with the roof down. Likewise, it's you just got to assess the conditions, and
Yeah. I fully believe that you behave like that, but I'm really wondering about whether everybody does that, and whether some people who might not behave responsibly might put themselves in danger, or maybe others in danger. And some of these places where the river is quite small, and thinking about in the middle of winter, as you said, places like the Upper Ariti where it's very remote and cold.
I guess like people are accessing these waterways now, opening them up, does it gain more access to people to be around them, or people to boat together? Possibly. It really is about assessing the conditions though.
Yeah.
At the moment we have one-off speed uplifts, and I was we were talking earlier about some of the conditions that we have to boat them in because we get 1 day, and certainly not favourable. I would say that poses more of a safety issue than being able to boat and choose your days and your weekends.
If you went in a group, say, to the Upper Ariti, then if somebody's boat broke down or somebody hit a rock, then you could help one another, couldn't you?
Yeah, correct.
But if you were there by yourself, that might not be possible.
Yeah, I mean, people are allowed to boat by themselves, but I would say a part of the enjoyment of accessing these areas is going with friends. I'd always boat with someone else. You never know what's going to happen. Just like leave your lights on in the car somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you can't drive back. It's sort of the same with the boat. It's just a bit more remote, unfortunately. So it's always good to have support vehicle there, support resource, I suppose.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Just two quick things from me, following on from Councillor Rodway about can I assume then that there's kind of safety in numbers? So having it more open means that there will be groups of people, which is safer than being a sneaky slip up there, even though I'm not supposed to be, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the way I would view it. I can't answer for people to do that, but it's always enjoyed boating with mates. Yeah.
The other thing is, one of my concerns is the new boaties who don't necessarily belong to the, an association or a club or whatever.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if you have got any insight into behaviour of new boaties. I've been out with people who've just got a new boat, and they've taken me on a spin, literally sometimes.
The new boat.
Which I love, but that's beside the point. There's a danger that new boaties are not being trained or guided as the members of a group might be. So we have to be conscious that the bylaw sets kind of a baseline for them. Do you think that the recommendations are sufficient for for those people particularly, not your association members.
Yeah, probably one thing I'd say on that is from when I first joined the Jet Boat Association, I had no idea that you could only boat Winton to Dipton all year round. I thought you could just go and boat where you wanted. So I'd say people that potentially aren't a member of Jet Boating New Zealand, so we get a handbook to new members, and normally get contacted by somebody. The handbook has all your rivers and waterways throughout New Zealand in it, and it tells you where you can launch or what times of the year you can boat. So I would say people that aren't a member are probably boating these waterways anyway. So once again, safety and numbers thing. If if the waterways are opened up a bit more, it's more likely that there's going to be an understanding around what boating these sections of river mean or what it's like. There's going to be more public exposure on our Facebook pages and bits and pieces showing people boating these sections of rivers. There could be more education through that. I'd say, from my experience, if people aren't members of Jet Boating New Zealand, they're probably just going to be boating what they want anyway.
So that's slightly outside the scope of the hearing today. The education work that maritime guys do will be important, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question regarding jet boats. It seems to be the thing: jet boats. Over the last few decades, would you agree with me that jet boat design has changed and adapted to allow for lower planing speeds, more manoeuvrability, lighter boating, trying to take away some of the limitations to jet boats that have been historically in place for quite a while? And to that extent as well, would you agree that now we're looking at inflatable and to try and get more access and that would lead to other limitations to those as well, with being extremely light and wind and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I believe jet boating is, my question is, would you agree that it has changed over the last couple of decades to be safer through the design and functionality of building different and better and lighter and more manoeuvrable boats?
From my experience, I definitely agree with that. I think we're dealing with far more efficient jet units now, far more torquier engines that are going in boats. So while they've got more power, they can actually plane at lower speeds. They don't have to be, once again, using the car analogy, if I had an old Mark 1 Zephyr, if I was going up the Lumsden Hill, I'd probably want to get a bit of speed up before whereas with the jet boat with a reasonably torquey modern V8 engine in it, you don't need to be maintaining a fast planing speed to keep momentum up. Like you can safely and slowly maneuver up to an area without dropping off the plane completely, assessing what's in front of you and then deciding to accelerate through that as needed. You're not worried about losing power the same as you would be with an old. So I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Thanks very much for your
All right.
time and your
Thank you.
extensive input into submissions. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you. Mr. McKenzie. Lucky last for us this morning, Mr. McKenzie.
Right,
All yours.
it's all mine. Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to my submission. Just a bit of background. I wrote a fair bit of that down, but I'm a retired civil engineer with a traffic engineering degree as well. So I have a lot of knowledge on traffic, and relating to rivers as well. So part of my work was attending serious crash sites where fatal accidents are concerned south of the Waitaki River back in the day before I retired, just to keep you notice. So I'm also a boat designer. I've been designing boats since 1980. A lot of people in this room drive the boats I've designed. Macraft boats built out of Bluff. So I have a fair idea of how jet boats work and manoeuvre And just Councillor Evans' thing of how boats have come forward. Since the middle of 1980, when jet sprinting was become a sport, boat design changed during that period from 85 to 90s significantly with the advent of jet sprinting and the manoeuvrabilities and the ability of boats to turn. And that has reflected, as I've said in my earlier thing with my submission, that has reflected into pleasure boats today. And a lot of pleasure boats today follow that design where you get a wider, broader boat with a lower planing speed, and you can manoeuvre around things that still manoeuvre. Back in the day, the early Hamilton boats, they were flat bottom, slow planing, but low horsepower, and they didn't turn because they didn't have straight planing strokes on them or chines. So what boat manufacturers learnt through that jet sprinting period was how to design a boat that turned or manoeuvred and handled properly. So as a disabled person, jet boats give me access to locations I wouldn't be able to access. So I also take elderly people and young people to the river to fish because, once again, that gives them access. Elderly people aren't that good on their walking, so jet boats give those people access. So talking on the Jacobs River estuary, I support the proposal of permanent uplift, but the current under the Riverton Bridge is a concern to me. Staff comments acknowledge about the vessel's travelling manoeuvrability and steerage. Travelling upstream into the current, coming under the bridge, and I agree with that. When you've got power on in any boat, whether it be a jet boat, an outboard or whatever, you have got ability to steer that boat. What my concern is the strong current. When you're travelling with the strong current, you don't have the steerage manoeuvrability at all. So when the tide is coming in and more so going out in that particular place, with the narrow bridge creates a fast flow. I talked to the Riverton Coast Guard member about the current under the bridge, and it can be up to 8 or 9 knots. So if you're going with the flow in a boat, whether it be a jet boat or an outboard, to actually maintain proper forward motion, you have to have power on. So you're going to be doing well over 5 knots to go under that bridge, and to do it safely. The Upper Waiau River, I support the proposal, no speed restriction from Pearl Harbour down to the Marrow Weir. The Waiau River, I support the proposal, no speed restriction from Marrow Weir to the sea. In Reedy River, I support the proposal, there's no speed restriction from the State Highway 97 bridge near Moulton to 50 metres above the Duns Road Bridge out of Tara. However, I'm unsure why there is a speed restriction for the 50 metres above the Duns Road Bridge to downstream side of the bridge. The section of river downstream of the bridge has no speed restriction. In my opinion, it's safer to boat under the bridge, as once again, this is a tidal area. Same reasons for the Riverton Bridge. I think I can't understand why we've stopped that 50 metres above the bridge for navigation and safety issues. To me, it's safer to boat under any bridge, under power, up on the plane, when you have manoeuvrability. It makes no sense at all to drop off the plane. Now, I can give you a reason for that, but I'm not going to. Mainly because it's got nothing to do with that. So the Matera River, I object to the seasonal speed restrictions. I have compared the stats and flows at the Seaward Downs Bridge on the Matera River and the Wallacestown on the Oridi River. The Matera River flows mean is 91.7 QMX. The median flow is 69.9, and the catchment area of the Matera is 5,109 square kilometres. The Oridi River flows mean at Wallacestown is 39.4. The median is 27.1, and the catchment is 2,201 square kilometres. The Matera River has 2 times more than the mean flow of the Oridi, is wider, factors which mitigate any navigation safety issues. If it is safe to boat the Oridi through fishing and duck hunting season, then it is safe to boat the Matera. Why is the Matera closed to recreational boating outside? For the outside those 4 months when there's no other supposed to be recreational users on the river, when the river is twice the size or over 2 times the size. Yeah. So my thing is that the Matera River from Ardlasser Bridge to the Gord Roads Bridge on 92 have no speed restriction. No difference to any other river. It's big and open and easy to see. Waikaia River in 2008, Jet Boating New Zealand Southern Branch were asked to attend a meeting at Southern Fishing Game. Present at that meeting was Morris Rodway, Stu Sutherland, and Mark Sutton for Fishing Game. There was Garth McMaster and myself for JBNZ. This was to discuss the run on the Waikaia River, which is traditionally held in March each year, and that had been held in March for 20 or 25 years. And there was a lot of conflict or supposedly conflict with fishermen on the run of that March. So we were called in to discuss shifting our run on the Waikaia River, and they asked us to consider moving the run from March when it was heavily fished, and Fishing Game offered us runs. They offered us 3 runs between the second weekend of October and the 5th of December each year, excluding Labour weekend. This was put to Fishing Game councillors, which agreed. So in my opinion, the Waikaia River also should have no speed restriction between the 15th of October and the 15th of December each year, as I've got proof of that from Fishing Game. Aparima River, Jacobs Bridge to Fairfax, to have no speed restriction. This is a section river that has in the past been highly used by locals, as someone pointed out, as the rogue Otis. No complaints to ES about navigation safety, except willow trees, which are on most New Zealand rivers. The Mararoa support the seasonal restriction, but would have preferred the limit to be the Mararoa Bridge. Now I'm going to go into answering a lot of questions Morris was asking. So, as a traffic engineer, and there's a lot of gravel roads in New Zealand with windy bends. So everybody drives up gravel roads, they drive to the roads, they drive to the conditions. If they don't, they fall off or die. It's pretty simple. They don't close them because someone dies. This is an argument I had with Maritime New Zealand when they closed Blue Lakes to motorised boating because an out-of-town boater come in and boated, and of course there was a fatal with a ski biscuit. But they chose to close the lake. I argued with Steve, whatever his name is, from Maritime Safety at the time, that if it was a road, we would put rules in place And the locals had their own rules in place, but he decided that it was easier just to close it because it made it easy rather than actually. So Lake St Bathans is the only lake in that area that the locals could go boating and do some skiing and biscuiting on in any time, and now it's closed and they can't. So and so if you're going to go boating in a small river, you're aware and you're looking. There is a lot of visibility from a boat, a lot more than what people would imagine. So you get to see a lot. You're aware. You like driving a car. In a car, in traffic engineering, we would use that people drive for a reaction time. So if you're driving along with your kids in the car, the stereo playing, blah, 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 and listening to a lot of conversation happening, your reaction time is like 3 seconds. So that's how long it takes to take your foot off the accelerator and get it on the brake. If you're driving along quick with no distractions, no stereo going, you're driving along at, say, 115k or 120k, you are down to 1.5 seconds. Now, is that safe? So if you're driving along at the road at 80 or 90k and your reaction time's 3 seconds, the time it takes you to get your foot off the accelerator and onto the brake, you've travelled 120 metres. If you're driving along at 120 kilometres an hour and your reaction time's 1.5 seconds, the time it takes you to get off the accelerator and onto the brake is something like 85 metres. So who is the safest? The person that's concentrating on what they're doing or the person that's not? When you're driving a jet boat, you're generally concentrating on what you're doing, because if you're not, you're parked up. Simple as that. Now, the Mayor is asking about the Mayor. I've had the benefit of boating that a number of times through my old work as a civil engineer and doing a lot of the tree safety work in there and bridge replacement of the Mayoral Road Bridge. So I got to be in the boat, driving the boat for the surveys at the time. So I've been up and down that river quite a bit, to be fair. The worst place is actually down by the water level recorder where all the rocks are. That's the hardest point to get through. So and he's obviously shaking his head, so he knows a wee bit about it. So it doesn't matter how narrow or wide the river is. When you're boating, you're aware and you're looking for what's happening around the corner, just like you are on a gravel road when you're driving and you're looking to see if there's another vehicle coming. In the old days, driving at night on gravel roads, we used to drive with the power poles, like how the power poles did follow the roads, because if you're tearing along, it was easier to watch where the power poles were going than where the road was going. In a small situation, that's the way it is. So I don't believe there's any navigation safety issues on the Mayoral. I have been up the Aparima from Jacobs Bridge up to the huts. So I have boated that section of river. So yes, it is boatable, even in a boat my size, at the right flows. But everything happens at the right flows. Now you're talking about rocks and you're talking about people being not having communication. I started boating the Wairahiri River in 1974. So there's a few people in this room that's boated the Wairahiri River. There's been no communication down there ever. And people have boated up and down that river. And they've boated up and down on a peg that was in the sand at the mouth of the river, and you looked at that, you had to boat down the river, you had to boat down the lake to that point to see the peg, whether you're going to boat the river or not, because you knew how low or high it was back in the day. Now you've got a water level recorder, so it's all right, you just look that up. But you boat the river on the flow or whatever's happening. So it doesn't matter what river it is, whether it's the top of the Aridi, the top of the Aparima, or the Waikaia River, you boat according to what's happening, just like you drive a road, a gravel road. And the type of vehicle or boat that you use depends on what you're doing. If you're going to drive up through to Piano Flat and beyond, you're not going to drive in your two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive car, eh? You're going to take a four-wheel drive. And I would suggest a fair amount of people in this room have four-wheel drives. So it's about how you perceive the situation. Right. I'll probably have my 5 minutes.
And some.
And yes,
Probably.
somebody else's. That's okay. Councillor Evans, questions?
Not really questions. Thank you for being very clear and concise. And in respect regarding under the bridge of Riverton, 8 knot flow, you know, I can imagine current and river flow coming out of there. So thank you for that. It's covered off a few questions that I probably would have had. So thank you.
Yes, one or two. Talking about, you talked about going underneath the Riverton Bridge, which has a strong current, whether the tide's coming in or going out, and you have to be going fast to manoeuvre there without it being unsafe.
No, you just have to be up on the plane. That's not going fast.
Okay, you have to be on the plane. Yeah.
Well, you have to have power on, so you can't do the 5 knots, is what I'm saying.
All right.
Especially when the current's running at 9.
So I'm thinking now about travelling down.
Your knots is in the navigational safety bylaw is against land. So the speed against land. So the current is already running at 9 knots. You can't go backwards.
Yeah, no, I understand that. What I'm trying to get at is that you have to travel at high speed going downstream, or at least 5 knots going downstream where there's a strong current.
Well, upstream or downstream, because the current runs both ways, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, you know, I'm thinking now of other situations in a river like the Mararoa. You talked about that boating on the Mararoa, and it sounds like you're familiar.
No, well, you're up on the plane. You don't have to go fast.
Can I finish the question?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yes, you can, councillor.
So I'm thinking about the Mararoa, where you sounds like you're familiar with the lower reaches of the Upper Ema, where you've been doing work there in the past and had to get access by a jet boat. Is that right?
Yep.
So you'll know that some parts of that are with large boulders in the river, and there are swift currents going into high cliffs. Going downstream into those places, would you say that a person who's a beginner jet boater, hasn't got a lot of skills, would that be a safe place for them to be?
Well, I relate to the Wairahiri. Have you ever boated down the Wairahiri? How fast the Wairahiri falls at 1 in 10 grade. So you're talking about looking down the Edendale Hill for 18 kilometres. That's what the Wairahiri is. So if you're boating down the Wairahiri, the boulders and the fast water and the sharp turns, no different to any other river. Probably one of the fastest flowing rivers in New Zealand.
Just get back to the Mararoa,
yeah,
and fast flow in places there, and a person in a jet boat who's maybe not that experienced, would you say that that is a safe place for them to be?
I would say it's safe depending on their ability. And if they've boated up through there, which is the only way you're going to get there in the first place, because there's no other launching except at Pearl Harbour to come down the Waio and into the Mararoa, you would be boating up through it and seeing what it's like to start with.
But you could get access at the Whitestone Confidence, for example, and then go downstream to there, couldn't you?
Oh, I suppose you could, yes. Well, I've always launched at Pearl Harbour, of course.
Right, okay. No, that's good, thank you. Also, on the Mararoa, you talked about the Mararoa Bridge. What bridge are you referring to there?
Mararoa Road Bridge.
The State Highway 94 road?
No, there's one about 11 kilometres upstream.
It goes to the Mararoa Station?
Yes.
Yes.
It was replaced when it was being replaced when I retired in 2019, so I know where it is.
Would you say that from the Key Bridge then at State Highway 94 up to the Mararoa Station Bridge is a relatively safe place for people to jet boat?
There's no difference between the Whitestone and the Key Bridge. The river's exactly the same.
Yeah. And the Mararoa Station Bridge?
Yeah.
Still pretty much the same up to there?
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
We do need to
I've got a couple.
conclude, so
Okay.
yes. If we could be brief, please.
Well, it's quite complicated. You talked about the Duns Road Bridge being a place where people should be able to boat down to. Currently, we're suggesting that it's not. It's 50 metres above there. What sort of effect does a jet boater travelling at more than 5 knots have on a rowing skiff? Somebody rowing, particularly a single skiff, say, does that have an effect on them?
Well, the lower the speed, the more the effect in a jet boat or any power boat, I would suggest. The wake from a low speed boat is far greater than travelling cleanly on the plane. So, it's not just jet boats that go up there. Outboards, there's a lot of outboards boat up that river now without, a lot of people go fishing in their boats up there in outboards. And jet boats, yeah, there's probably a few that go up there too, but you see quite a number of outboards heading up there. It doesn't matter what kind of boat it is on a rowing skiff and a kayak or any other boat. If you're up planing cleanly, the wake is far less.
It's still
Because if the boat's dragging in the water, it's creating a big wake.
Yeah, I understand.
If it's planing cleanly, there's little wake.
So it wouldn't have an effect on rowers if you're planing cleanly.
Yeah, and you gave them plenty of wide berth, and there's plenty of room in that river to give rowers wide berth.
Okay. Thank you.
And yes, I do know it's used extensively by rowers, generally right up to the West Plains Road Bridge.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McKenzie.
Right.
We are about half an hour behind now, having started early. So we will break. Now that's the end of the submissions presentations for this morning. And we will resume at 12:30. So we're half an hour late. The deliberations will begin at 12:30 on this particular part first, and then we'll do a quick a light touch over any implications for decisions or recommendations from this part through the remainder of the bylaw. Okay, thank you very much, folks, for making the time and effort to sit here this morning. Appreciate and all your input and many years of expertise, it would seem. But we do have to consider all the submissions as we go through, so they will all be given due consideration as we go through. Thank you very much, and we'll see those of you who are returning at 12:30.